Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a short little knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Ohlone Goat A.X.L V2, which is largely the same as the V1 with a couple of little improvements, I guess, right? Depending on how you define that word. But this was one of my favorite knives of 2023, and it is still definitely like on my top tier list of knives. It's an excellent value. It's an excellent build quality. And I just really like it. Thank you so much to Ohlone for, or Ohlone Knives for sending this in. Actually, they sent me the whole I guess like all the different versions. So if you want to see all the different versions, you can check out that video, or you can go to their website where these, at the time of this recording, are actually still available. So I will link them right down below. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks to Ohlone for sending them. And thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at the_metal_complex. Why didn't they put a left-handed pocket clip mounting position on a knife that's got an ambidextrous locking system? Actually, they make left-handed versions now, which I didn't know in the unboxing. You guys pointed it out. They actually have some left-handed versions of this on their website. I think this is great because it allows left-handed people to actually, you know, carry the knife the way that they want to. And then if you're right-handed or whatever, you don't have to look at the spot that's milled out to accept the clip on the other side. So it keeps that aesthetic, and that's great. These are still made by Riot. They are still running on phosphor bronze washers, which is really great for people who work in dirty or dusty environments and don't want debris getting inside the pivot. If you're new, or if you're stuck on this idea that at a certain price point, knives should have bearings because bearings means value or bearings means expensive, no. I don't know where people get that idea. There are knives that cost $20 that run on phosphor bronze, bearings, or even nylon. And there are knives that cost multiple thousands of dollars that run on, you guessed it, bearings, washers, and nylon. So if you, for whatever reason, have been stuck thinking that, stop, because it'll mess with your idea of what is supposed to be where and how things are supposed to be built at different price points. It comes down to basically the idea behind the build and the preference of the person using it. So phosphor bronze washers, for example, won't have as smooth of action as bearings. There's a huge benefit in terms of, I guess, longevity and durability. These will break in. Mine with micarta has broken in beautifully over time. This one, which was not the sample that I carried, is a good example of how they come brand new. They're a little bit stiff, very easy to deploy, but you're going to take a few deployments to kind of break them in. This is a Riot crossbar lock, and I think it's still the only Riot-made crossbar lock in existence, and they did a really, really good job with it. But rest assured, they do break in beautifully, and they are smooth in the pivot. They're just tight right out of the box, so don't let that deter you or anything. Let's go ahead real quick and get a measurement. The overall length of this knife, for people who don't know, is about 8¼ inches. Blade length is about 3.65. Cutting edge is about 3.5. Quick size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and others. Up against the 8010 and the 8020.5. I suppose it's closer to the overall profile. What is this? This is the Deca. The 8020.5 is this knife. What the heck? I'm sorry. It's definitely kind of in between. Obviously not nearly as robust as the 8010, and definitely longer than the 8020.5. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? I'm losing my mind, guys. You know why? Here's why. I have points that I want to make, and I'm just reaching for the wrong knife. Okay, PM2 Para 3. I can't wait to read the comments under this one. Definitely closer to the size of PM2, given that it's almost exactly the same overall length, but way more cutting edge. Definitely larger than the Para 3. Now, up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Hogue Deca, which is what this knife is. There you go. Okay, so we already kind of went over the action. These are definitely high tension Omega springs, which are really great. I do not like crossbar locks that feel loosey-goosey, floppy, right? This just feels high quality. Even though the action's a little stiff out of the box, it's definitely worth having these kind of Omega springs, having the build quality by Riot, and having to break it in just a little bit. For a lot of people, the argument that I hear is it should come broken in right away. Yes and no. Sometimes, a knife that comes like beautifully smooth and I guess broken in, or just, they machine it in a way that it's already kind of smooth, right? A lot of times things get loosey-goosey real quick. Tightening up the pivot kind of alleviates it, but I mean, let's be honest. Fans of Benchmade knives? I'm a fan of Benchmade knives too. Some of those, wow, they get real smooth. Super smooth. Like, in fact, they're super smooth sometimes right when you purchase them. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're super tight or gritty or whatever, because it can be all over the place. But some of those that are running, I've felt 940s that are brand new. You pull them and they're super smooth, right? But then after a while, you realize, even after tightening down the pivot, even after adjusting the body screws or trying to center the blade, yeah, the action's still smooth, but it's a little floppy. It's a little wiggly. It's not completely solid. And I'm not going to tell anybody that, but that's the case. Sometimes with knives like these, their break-in period, it keeps things solid while making the action smoother, because you're sort of letting those surfaces wear in naturally, right? Now, this doesn't always happen. But with mine and my Carta, that is what happened. I think we talked about this on a live stream one time, and I showed it. At the beginning, when I unboxed it, it was real tight, but on that live stream, super smooth. It's just what happens, and some people aren't going to like it. Like right there, it didn't, it was more of a leverage issue, but right there, it didn't deploy all the way. And if you don't like the idea of having to do that, if you feel like that's a chore, it might not be for you. For me, it was definitely worth the wait and worth, taking the time to break in, which in all honesty was probably about 2 weeks of flipping it, carrying it, using it, stuff like that. But the action, in my opinion, is good enough that it right out of the box is good enough that it justifies it. Where were we at? We were talking about action there. Access to the thumb stud, which still could be a little bit bigger. The access to it is good, and the thumb stud itself is okay. I wish the thumb stud was a little bit bigger, but not bad. Let's go ahead and weigh it. So this is titanium and carbon fiber. I think they're all like with inlays, right? So they're all going to weigh roughly the same. But the weight on this guy, titanium, carbon fiber, and I think they did M390. When I say that, I think it's like I can never remember if companies are using 20CV or M390, which is essentially the same composition. M390 is Bowler, CPM 20CV is Crucible, but they're almost identical, right? I'm pretty sure it's M390. 4.8 ounces, which is not bad. Some people will consider that more on the heavy side. The balance is definitely more towards the butt end of this knife. You're going to notice that the balance is definitely like in the handle. That's because of all the titanium and the fact that the blade's not super duper heavy, but it's not bad. And the carry profile is really, really good, which we're going to go ahead and do right now. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's about the same, but the scales are contoured and it fills the hand in a really nice way, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. This is an incredibly easy knife to carry. It's one of my favorite things about it is how big it feels, how capable it feels opened up, but how compact and lightweight. I'm sorry, well, not lightweight, but how compact it is in the pocket. Let's get to the part that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to wait for, where are we at? 8 minutes into the video. That way we can all go down and laugh at all those people who left a comment 30 seconds in and then left. Because that's what's going to happen. So many people. I mean, the comment's going to be, that looks exactly like a copy of the Bugout. They'll just take the Bugout and they made a copy of it. Yeah. So I have a Bugout. So here's where I think they're similar. They are both knives. Both of them are knives. Both of them have sharp blades. Both of them have blades made of metal. They both have thumb studs. Both blades have tip, yeah. And they are both knife shaped. They both have handles. Do you see what I'm getting at here? The reason why I think that that's such a brainless comment is because what it reduces it to, and what people are forced to realize is what they're saying is that the Bugout is original in terms of its profile, and that the lines are copied or duplicated, right? And when you think about what you're saying there, The lines of what? A drop point blade? The lines of what? A knife handle? This is not the first time this has been used, and this is not the first time this has been used, right? But that's where the similarities cease to be. The handle profile is actually different. The geometry of the handle is actually different. The length of the handle is different. The length of the blade is different. They are both drop point blades, but I mean, hey, if you think this is a copy, I have 1,000 other knives to show you that did it before Benchmade did it. So do yourself a favor and stop that. It's just not the case. I mean, it's really funny to read that, right? Do they have a similar profile at first glance? Yes. Are they the same knife? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the patent ended on the crossbar lock, right? So we can't say it's because it's a Bugout profile with crossbar lock. Crossbar lock, anybody can use, right? And last I knew, everybody was allowed to use basic knife handle profile A and drop point blade, right? That's been around for a bit. Can we please move on from that? But anyways, let's see. What do we need to get into now? We did the weight. We need to do the blade stock thickness. Let's go ahead and do that. It's already shaping up to not be a short review, but we'll get to it. Blade stock thickness coming in at 113 thousandths, definitely on the thinner side, and it shows during carry and use. Okay, so I'll do you know what? Yeah, we'll do the hardware check. Get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description. It talks about the tools I use on this channel, or the pinned comment. T8 pivot, T8 body screws, right? This is a crossbar lock, so it's not the most fun thing to take apart in the whole world, but it's definitely doable. At least they gave you good access with the T8 screws. Minimal hardware. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Okay, meat and potatoes time. This is a beautifully comfortable knife, and the pocket clip is well below the 50% line, and it's also milled and has that swoop, which makes it just, chef's kiss. It is so comfortable. Fills the hand so much better than the Bugout. The blade, right? There's so much usable blade. They've really made use of that with essentially a full flat ground blade. They have kind of an acidy finish or a darker finish. Then they have this like nice high polished tumbled finish. And then they also have a Damasteel blade. They're all great. Wish they did a DLC option, but they didn't, right? Cutting geometry is fantastic. It's just a straightforward drop point blade. It does a great job. You know, it's always the drop point is probably the most versatile blade shape. The tip, not going to be super duper strong, but don't chisel away at concrete with it. Don't try to use it like a screwdriver. Don't do anything dumb with it, and you're going to be fine. Last I knew, Riot was doing a really good job with M390. I want to say their target range is 60 to 62, I think. But if I'm wrong, you can let me know. That's the last that I heard. I didn't experience any type of immediate edge fatigue when I was using the other one that I carried, which was the PVD one. But I wasn't using it hard enough to really be able to tell. It's not really what I do on this channel. I just want to let you guys know, kind of how I used it. Just light use, normal carry. Inlay work on these is fantastic. I'm really glad they decided to do some different inlays. And they also, on like the bronze one and the black one, they have some texturing, which I showed off in the unboxing. Really cool. So you have a bunch of different options, either the black PVD with, I forget what inlay they did there. You've got this kind of Arctic storm carbon fiber with the blasted and just sort of plain titanium. You have the bronze with the bronze carbon fiber. And then you have like a copper carbon fiber on a regular like blasted frame with the Damasteel blade, which is really, really cool. And it's actually Damasteel too for a pretty darn good price, which we'll talk about. Ergonomics are fantastic. It's all exactly the same thing. Still wish they had jimping up here. And again, I still wish the thumb studs were a little bit different, but I'm not going to complain too much because really it's just an absolutely wonderful, wonderful user. Backspacer, I like that they did. I think on all of them, the same material as the inlays. I think that looks nice. I really like that they did the inlays on both sides. I think that's a nice touch. I love that they didn't screw up the aesthetic with a lanyard hole because who needs that anymore, right? I mean, if you like lanyards, sorry. Again, lefties, they did one for you. So I think that's great. A lot of people, I think, would say, why didn't you just do it on both sides, mill out a spot? Well, they don't have to have a filler tab. That way nobody has to look at it. I'm not really personally bothered by that, but I know some people are, so there you go. Lockup, same as it was, super solid. Little tiny bit of lock stick, but that'll go away. This is tight but smooth, and a nice snap into the closed position thanks to the high tension omega springs. All of them had absolutely perfect centering. The base price of this knife, and keep in mind, this is a Riot produced knife. So if you don't know who Riot is, it's really hard to gauge in terms of pricing. But for the rest of you, which is at this point literally hundreds of thousands of people, you know what type of knives Riot makes. You know that they've always been a step up in terms of production quality versus literally the rest of the world. When we're talking about production knives, Riot is at the top. They've been at the top. Their knives tend to be $350 to $450, right around in there, right? And they make great stuff. This is priced less than the general competition that we see for like Chinese high-end production knives. Bestech, WE, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. $265 at base for the exact version that you're seeing here. Really well heat-treated, nicely finished M390, great blade profile, titanium frame, contoured with inlays on both sides, right? Same material for the backspacer as the inlays, and a milled clip. Yeah, they were a great value then. They're still a great value. He didn't even bump the price. Like some of the other inlaid versions are $285, and the Damasteel version is only, I think it's like $175 more, which is actually the increased charge that Damasteel should be. Companies like we will charge you $300 to $350 more for a Damasteel blade. I've always maintained that that's ridiculous. It's not worth $300 more for Damasteel. Damasteel is $150, $170 more. That's what it should be. It's an expensive material to make. Two powder, that's a very specific proprietary version of Damascus that's made by, don't tell me the legend of Woots. Please, save it. We've heard it. We call this modern pattern welded Damascus. Damascus to simplify it. We don't need to hear about Woots. Nobody's impressed by it. It's old. It was a thing of the past. Interesting part of history. Not important. But modern Damascus, in terms of performance Damascus, specifically Damasteel, PMC 27 and RWL 34, wonderful in terms of performance, and it's awesome to look at. It's expensive to make. $170 or so more. Yeah, I agree with that. Dang it, I was trying to keep this under 15 minutes. Well, this officially isn't a short review. Long story short, this is just as good, if not better. I think these new ones are better. There's more variety. I think these are better than the first ones. I'm super impressed with this. I'm going to keep one, and I'm going to give the rest of them away. I'll probably keep the Damasteel one. Sorry, I'm going to be a little selfish there. But I am going to give the rest of them away. If you don't know, I go live usually on Friday evenings at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. A lot of the free stuff that I get for reviews ends up being given away. These are legitimately incredible knives. I think the value's off the charts. They make wonderful tools. And if you're like me and the Bugout is incredibly underwhelming, you like the general profile, but just not the look and the feel, because that's, they are similar in terms of the generic profile, but that's it. It's limited to just that surface level similarity. I've always felt like a version of the Bugout would be really cool if they changed like almost everything about it. And that's kind of what this is, right? But it manages to be absolutely its own thing. It stands completely alone, and I love it. I just really like this solidity of it, the profile, the look, the feel, and it's absolutely worth letting it break in. Highly recommendable. If you can still get your hands on it, check out the Ohlone Goat website. Don't tell me they're out of stock on Blade HQ. I know that. I linked the Ohlone Goat website down in the description, so go there and check first, unless you're watching this like 2 years in the future, in which case, yeah, they're probably gone. But anyways, highly recommendable. Definitely check them out. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.